Hey, what's happening, guys? What is going on? Good morning, everybody. You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. Today is Thursday, January 19th, 2023. We got a lot of news to cover today. We're going to be talking about the economy. We're going to be covering a bunch of business news stories, and I have a warning for you guys who are Amazon merch sellers. There's a big crackdown happening over a certain type of design, a certain keyword, a certain word that can no longer be mentioned on Amazon merch, and that list is always growing. A lot of stuff to talk about in today's video. Markets were down big yesterday, but before we get into today's news, I just wanted to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, QuickFixSynthetic.com. QuickFixSynthetic.com. Link will be in the description box below. They make products to help you pass your drug test, whether it's a pee test, a saliva test, or a hair follicle test. They got something to help you pass it. Check out their Quick Fix 6.3 kit. It comes with 2 ounces of synthetic urine, which does contain urea. That means it will pass all tests. It comes with a heating pad, a temperature strip, and other accessories to help you pass your urine test. You got a mouth swab test at a place like Amazon. Do not fear. They have a mouthwash that will help you pass mouth swab tests, and they also have shampoos to help you pass hair tests. They offer fast shipping and 100% customer satisfaction guarantee. Check out the link in the description box below. Without further ado, let's jump into today's video. The kind of big story I wanted to put up front for you guys, I recently got about 25 emails about Amazon merch policy violations. These aren't new shirts that I put up. These are shirts that have been on Amazon merch since like 2016. We're talking, what's that, like 7 years ago? All the t-shirts that were taken down either were designs of the Ethereum logo or had the word Ethereum with them. So it may have even been a Bitcoin shirt, but in the description, because we try to hit a lot of keywords, I might have said something like, if you enjoy trading cryptocurrencies, if you love cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, you'll love this t-shirt. Amazon merch is so strict about like trademarks that you're not even allowed to mention certain words. I believe like even the word hot sauce. You're not allowed to mention the word hot sauce on a t-shirt or in a description. And apparently now Ethereum is one of those words. Again, I got a flurry of takedowns. They asked me to provide proof that I own the rights to use that word or use that image. Anybody can make Bitcoin t-shirts. Nobody owns Bitcoin. Nobody knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. So nobody owns the IP essentially. With other cryptocurrencies, you could always get away with making t-shirts for pretty much every cryptocurrency out there because the t-shirt is essentially promoting the coin. Whoever is behind the coin likely isn't going to care that you're helping to promote their project. So that used to be kind of a safe thing to do, but it seems like Ethereum is going after people. I think the reason that mine were caught is if you guys aren't Amazon merch sellers, you may not know this, but if I uploaded a t-shirt on a premium t-shirt 5 years ago, and it was only on the U.S. market. Now that Amazon has more goods available, and now that Amazon sells in more countries, France, Japan, etc., Amazon will take your old designs and they'll put them on new products and put them in new markets. They'll translate your descriptions, your titles, your bullet points into whatever language that is, and they'll re-upload the shirts for you. Now, ultimately, this is kind of a good thing, but when they do this, if policies have changed in the past couple years, these new shirts will get caught in that policy change. So let me know if any of you guys are experiencing this as well, and if you guys have any questions, just drop it down in the description box below. Let's talk about markets yesterday. We had a lot of bad news yesterday for the economy. The Dow closed down 613 points. NASDAQ closed down just under a point. S&P 500 down about 1.5%. Top cryptocurrencies, which had been on a run for the past week, 7-day charts are still up big, but top cryptocurrencies fell kind of 2 to 3% yesterday. The Fed, media, the Fed, the media, and banks are trying to put a rosy spin on things. Hey guys, inflation came down. Oh my gosh, there's a 25% uptick in the interest in mortgages. The amount of people getting mortgages is up 25%. That's a great thing. What they don't tell you is that manufacturing, we learned yesterday, is down in 11 of 13 different categories. And even though we may have had a quote-unquote spike in the interest in getting mortgages, up 25%, it's still down 36% from when it was last year. We've talked about this in a couple recent videos, but KB Homes, 68% of all home builds are being canceled. KB Homes, we'll talk about this in a little bit as well. KB Homes has said they're not going to continue developing and building new homes until they work through their excess inventory. Now, here's kind of my thesis of what's kind of happened. So the Fed thought that manufacturing would continue because, basically we have supply chain shortages and we have inflation. The Fed has kind of argued that due to shortages is why inflation has gotten so bad. So what the Fed wanted to do, the Fed wanted to crush demand so that if there's less demand, then supply has to sell things for less, right? Simple rule of supply and demand. Well, manufacturers and stores, too, for that matter, already had too much inventory, right? Everybody was ramping up and building up, thinking the Mexican beer cough boom, the boom in sales of literally everything would go on forever. Amazon built 400 warehouses, bought all these planes, and then eventually the Mexican beer cough came to an end, and a lot of that kind of artificial demand that we had kind of came to an end as well. We heard about how Nike, as well as many other retailers, weren't able to sell their items from last spring and last summer. And so manufacturing heard what the Fed said, right? Manufacturing said, okay, the Fed's saying that we're going to try to crush consumer demand. Why are we going to continue manufacturing things? Why are we going to continue making things for a market of people who aren't going to buy these things? So manufacturing pulled back as well. That's why we're seeing manufacturing down in 11 of 13 categories. And then the simple laws of supply and demand kick in. Well, yes, there are less buyers out there. There's less consumers out there. People are buying less things. They're also manufacturing less things. So there's less supply, which means even though there's less demand, the less supply matches that, and prices don't come down. So that's basically what's happening right now. Let's see if I had any other notes on this, even though there may be. Okay. So yeah, we kind of talked about that. 68% of home cancellations by KB Homes, and really kind of in the industry as a whole. That surpasses even the numbers we saw back in 2008 during the height of the Great Recession and the housing collapse. And just for context, last year, the cancellation rate was 13%. Today, it's 68%. And it's rare for the cancellation rate on new home builds to go above 15, maybe 20% would be pretty high, pretty unusual, and we're at 68%. Despite the terrible news for home builders, D.R. Horton, the largest home builder in America, is trading near all-time highs at $95. It's up 85%. Over the last 5 years. How is a home builder stock trading at all-time highs when the entire real estate industry and home building industry looks like it may collapse? And 68% of all home builds are being canceled, but the largest home builder in America, their stock is trading at all-time highs. What sense does that make? Back to the KB Home story. Here's what they said. They said current conditions remain challenging. High mortgage rates and persistent inflation together with an uncertain economy have caused home buyers to be more cautious since the middle of last year. As such, in the fourth quarter, we're prioritizing on selling our backlog and protecting our high margins over continuing to build. Here's a crazy story. Illinois, along with Connecticut, Hawaii, Maryland, New York, and Washington, are looking at imposing a wealth tax on citizens of their state, wealthy citizens of their state. What they want to do, and I think the federal government was talking about doing this before, they want to tax people on unrealized gains. So if I buy a stock for $100 and that stock goes up to, I will say $150, Illinois and all these other states want to be able to tax me on that $50 profit per share. Well, if I haven't sold the stock, I haven't actually seen the profit. So here's what winds up happening potentially is Illinois or Connecticut or Hawaii, whatever one of these states, they tax me on the $50 gain per share that I made, but I wind up continuing to hold the stock. So 6 months from now, that stock price tanks. I bought it for $100. That stock price winds up going back down to $80. I've now had a 20% loss. So not only have I suffered a 20% loss, but I also already paid taxes on a 50% gain. Like, what sense does this make? What it's going to wind up doing is causing people to either leave the state entirely or just sell out of positions before they have to pay this tax. Really stupid policy. So we talked about the Microsoft layoffs. Microsoft laid off 10,000 workers. Actually, I think the number was 11,000 workers. That's 5% of their workforce. One thing that we do know is Microsoft tends to lay people off in waves because they think it's less likely to make news. So this likely is one of many waves that we'll see in 2023. If we have one more wave, which I think two firings doesn't really make a wave. I think you probably need at least 3 to make a wave. So let's say we have 2 more hirings like this. We have a wave of firings. That 10,000, another 10,000, another 10,000. We wind up losing 30,000 workers at Microsoft. In 2022, tech lost 154,000 workers, and thus far in 2023, we've lost over 25,500 workers. I think that number, with some of the recent layoffs, may actually be going closer to 50,000. And the other day, I talked about a website called Layoffs.fyi, where you can look at all the current layoffs. Just in the past day, Microsoft, 10,000 at 5% of their workforce. A company called Sophos laid off 450. That's 10% of their workforce. Teladoc Health laid off 306% of their workforce. A company called 8x8 out of San Francisco laid off 155. That's 7% of the workforce. Benevity laid off 137, 14% of the workforce. JumpCloud laid off 100, 12% of the workforce. Incinco laid off 100, 7% of the workforce. Starry, 100, 24% of the workforce. Hootsuite. Hootsuite is a social media scheduling company, laid off 70. That's 7% of their workforce. We probably have another 6 lines of layoffs, 10% of the workforce, 20% of the workforce, 20% of the workforce. If I go to January 17th, which was just a day earlier, there's about another 15 or 20 layoffs. 300 at Lightspeed, 284 at Unity, 206 at British Vault, 150 at Clutch, 142 at Excotel. Layoffs are really picking up in 2023, which is kind of what I had been saying was going to happen. Retail sales continue to stumble for December 2022. Bank of America had forecast a 1.4% drop. Bloomberg had forecast a 0.8% drop. We actually saw a 1.1% month-over-month drop in retail spending. And retail spending in 10 of 13 retail sales categories fell, including motor vehicles, furniture, electronics, and others. Thought this was kind of an interesting article, just an interesting stat about American coffee consumption. How many cups of coffee? First off, are you guys coffee drinkers? Drop a comment, let me know. And then secondly, how many cups of coffee do you drink per day? Apparently 57% of the population are considered to be coffee drinkers, or they drink coffee on a regular basis. Among coffee drinkers, 21% of coffee drinkers drink 1 cup per day. 27% of coffee drinkers drink 2 cups per day. 20% of coffee drinkers drink 3 cups per day. 18% of coffee drinkers drink 4 to 5 cups per day, and we got some big stim heads out there. 13% of coffee drinkers drink more than 6 cups of coffee per day. I think I'll normally have maybe, I guess it depends on how we count cups. A lot of times I'll make myself a large coffee that's probably actually 3 or 4 cups in the morning, but I'll normally have a morning coffee, and then I will have an afternoon coffee around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. The Biden administration is urging judges to lift their stay on the mask mandates on airplanes. Why at this point in time Biden wants people wearing masks on planes again is beyond me. If they win, masks could come back, but it doesn't look like the courts will be riding with Biden. The courts are questioning whether the CDC even has the power to make people wear masks. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, a Putin ally, said that if Ukraine loses to NATO, they'll go nuclear. Another thing we've recently learned that I think we've all already known anyways is that Russia has always said that NATO expansion was a red line in the sand, right? Like that was basically an act of war if you expand NATO up to their doors. If you look at what happened here in the U.S. back in, the 60s, Russia was setting up, Russia got cozy with Cuba. They were setting up bases and setting up missiles in Cuba. The U.S. was like, hey, you're kind of our enemy. We don't want you that close to us. And we caused a big stir about it. So why do we not think that Russia will do the same thing? Hey, we're going to go right up against your borders. We're basically going to kind of, push you and poke you and prod you until you start a war and then act surprised that there was a war. I'm terrible with analogies, but here's kind of my analogy of the situation, right? So you have a bully at school, and the bully's name is Max. The bully likes to sit at a lunch table by himself, and if anybody sits with him, Max will beat them up. So you have a jock named Chad, and you have kind of a nerdy kid named Steve. Now, Steve is wimpy, he's nerdy, he's skinny, he can't fight, he doesn't have much self-confidence. So Chad says, hey, Steve, you should go sit at Max's table. And Steve says, no, Chad, Max will kick my ass if I go sit at his table. And Chad's like, hey, I got your back. If Max tries to kick your ass, I got your back. So Chad winds up tricking Steve or telling Steve, convincing Steve to go sit at Max's table. Max punches Steve in the face and starts kicking his ass. And, Chad in this situation is the U.S. Now, Chad starts to slide textbooks and things that maybe can be used as weapons over at Steve. And he's like, hey, hit Max with this textbook. And maybe Chad takes a couple cheap shots and, maybe kicks Max in the ribs while he's on the ground pounding Steve. But ultimately, he's not really helping. That's kind of how I see this whole Russia, U.S., Ukraine situation. Let's move on. Big story in hockey. Philadelphia Flyers defenseman Ivan Provorov refused to wear an LGBTQ rainbow jersey for, I guess, a Pride hockey game the other day. People on Twitter are super upset that he was allowed to dress for the game, even though he refused to wear the Pride jersey. He didn't say anything bad about gay people. He said, I respect gay people. He just said, I'm not gay. Why should I wear a gay jersey? This goes against my religion. I just don't want to wear the jersey. And people are up in arms at how dare he not wear the jersey. It's one thing, everybody should be respected, but it's not my responsibility to celebrate your lifestyle. And I don't care what lifestyle it is. It could be gay, it could be trans, it could be you like playing soccer. I'm all for you doing what makes you happy. I'm all for you doing you, but it's not my job to celebrate your lifestyle, your choices, or your individuality, right? That's upon you. It's not my responsibility to do that. And the hockey has gotten super woke. If you look at tweets and things like that coming from specific hockey teams as well as the NHL, it's all gay pride, gay pride, gay pride. And what does that really have to do with hockey? We talked in a video the other day about, most people, it's a slight majority, but 54% of people don't want companies, sports teams, organizations shoving their views down their throats. I'm looking to go to a hockey game. I don't want to go to a gay rights rally. I don't want to go to a war in Ukraine rally. I don't want to go to a non-GMO farming rally. I don't want to go to a don't use seed oils rally. I just want to go enjoy a damn hockey game. Let me enjoy my hockey and leave me alone, right? Here's a big story. So apparently, nipples are going to be allowed on Instagram. Instagram will now allow bare chests on, Instagram. You could always see nipples through shirts. Instagram allows some pretty risque stuff, but you've never been allowed to have topless women on Instagram. Well, Facebook's, I guess Meta, right? Instagram's parent company, Meta, is going to quote unquote free the nipple. They're going to lift the ban on bare breasts. They say it impedes the right of expression for women, trans people, and non-binary people. Why showing your titties is I guess showing your titties is a way of expressing yourself. Cool. I'm not going to complain about seeing nipples, about seeing boobs. Who doesn't like boobs? But here's kind of why this is happening, right? So the only acceptable viewpoint to have in America is that there are not two genders. There are numerous amounts of genders. There's not 62 genders. There's not 82 genders. There's an infinite number of potential genders out there because anybody can identify as whatever they want. Well, the fact that you would allow men to be bare-chested on Instagram and not allow women to be bare-chested on Instagram pretty much goes against the narrative that there are two genders, right? Because if there were numerous genders, everyone can have their boobs out. But if there's only two genders, you're saying men can have their chests bare, but women cannot. I'll be curious to see how this winds up shaking out. People are always concerned about advertisers. Will advertisers get upset that there's going to be bare-chested women or bare-chested non-binary people on Instagram? Are they going to have to get stricter about what young people, or I don't know if kids are even allowed on Instagram, but are these images going to be blurred and you have to click it to reveal it? It'll be interesting to see how this lift on toplessness for all people winds up going down on Instagram. We got an article from Zero Hedge. Hunter Biden lived in the mansion where Joe Biden's classified documents were, well raking in millions from Chinese intelligence agencies. Biden's party does not want him to run in 2024, and they seem to be throwing him under the bus. I don't think Biden will be forced to leave office, but I do think I mean, it was kind of crazy that he would run in 2024 anyways, but any chance of that is down the drain. We learned yesterday that Jerome Powell has tested positive for the Mexican beer cough. Saudi Arabia is interested in trading oil for non-dollar currencies. You are witnessing the death of the petrodollar, and that spells bad news for the USA. EV cars are all the rage, or at least they were. But people are starting to sour on EV cars. You can't charge your EV car in hot weather. You can't charge your EV car in cold weather. You can't take long trips. EV cars, people again seem to be kind of turning on them. A man recently bought an EV Hummer, and he discovered that it would take 5 full days to charge. If I'm taking a road trip across the country, even driving a state over, it seems like a nightmare having to worry about will there be a charging station. Then the charging station obviously takes longer to charge a car than it does to fill up a car with gas. I have zero interest in EVs. A hybrid might be interesting, but a straight EV, absolutely zero interest. Bank of America is going to freeze hiring to prepare for a recession. And we're hearing the same thing from Morgan Stanley, Credit Suisse, Nomura, BlackRock, Goldman Sachs. And I had Credit Suisse again. We already mentioned them. We've also learned that during this whole meltdown of FTX, $413 million in crypto was stolen. Retailers expect little growth in the month ahead. High inflation continues to impact consumer spending, especially among low-income and middle-class consumers, which are the vast majority of people who are spending money, especially at places like Target, Walmart, etc., grocery stores. Companies are hesitant to lay off workers even during these declines in demand. They don't want to be caught where demand picks back up and they fired all their workers and now they have to train people again. But as things continue to get worse, I don't think companies are going to be able to continue to maintain all these workers. And I think we are going to see even more layoffs continue into 2023. Retailers are hesitant to pass along further cost to consumers because they're noticing that consumers are tapped out and are starting to have less money to spend. JP Morgan warns that bonuses will absolutely fall. The firm's investment banking revenue was down 57% year over year. Recent report found 500 advertisers have paused their advertising spending on Twitter, causing a 40% drop in revenue. You guys probably saw the story the other day. Greta Thunberg was detained and arrested in Germany. Turns out it was all a staged event. That's why she looked so calm. That's why photographers were all over waiting for this to happen. A lot of the quote-unquote news you see is actually staged events. Iran and Russia want a stablecoin backed by gold to enable cross-border transactions. Again, you are witnessing the death of the petrodollar and the U.S. dollar right in front of your eyes. Putin is getting ready to stage 700,000 troops. We talked about this in the video the other day. In pretty much every conflict Russia has ever been in, they sacrifice about 500,000 Russian troops, Russian lives. Right now, the number is at about 100,000 that have died, so this war is about a fifth of the way through. If things go how they typically do, you're looking at about another 4 years of this war and another 400,000 lives lost. Putin and Russia, they plan on staging 700,000 new troops, and they want to cut Ukraine off from Europe so that no more aid can come in. And if they are successful in doing that, that would essentially be the end of this war. And then let's see, we got another piece of news. Last week, mortgage rates dropped from 6.42% to 6.23%, spurring a 28% in mortgage interest or mortgage demand. The media is really trying to spin this as good news, but again, when 68% of home purchases are being canceled, and when pretty much by everybody interest rates are expected to continue to go up, this means pretty much nothing. That's pretty much all the news I have for you guys today. If you guys, couple things. First off, if you guys see any good stories, any interesting stories, any stories you guys think I should share in these daily videos, either email me at RulesForRebels@gmail.com or just drop a comment with a link to an article or tell me about a story. It helps me from having to find all these stories to share every day. So do me a favor, share whatever interesting news you guys have with me. If you guys enjoy the videos, do me a favor. I'd really appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up button. It helps the video in the YouTube algorithm. Drop a comment, say one word, type one letter, type a period. Share your thoughts about what we talk about in today's video. I would really like you guys to kind of start a discussion and share your thoughts, but even just drop a one-word comment. It helps the video out in the algorithms. And if you're not subscribed to the channel but want to get these daily kind of updates on business news, the economy, etc., go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and ring the bell as well. That's all I got for you guys today. If you enjoyed the video, actually I already said all that stuff. I'm done, guys. I'll catch you on tomorrow's video. Later. Peace.